Hi Leena, hi Murugan.
Hey, hi Rohit. Helena.
Yeah, how you all doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Good,
Leena,
good.
uh, Leena, are you able
Yeah.
to hear us?
Yes. I was muted.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks a lot for joining us for today. So today is the third day of Cloud Community Days, and we are following the theme Serverless and DevOps. So you guys are the first speaker for today's session. So Leena and Murugan, I would request you to give a quick introduction about both of you, and you can tell what your talk is going to be about, and then we'll start off with the session.
Uh, okay. So uh, the session is basically about um, mainly about how to use Azure for setting your pipeline and deploy continuously to your different environments. But just rather than just showing this is what you can do with the tools, we are giving a intro of you need why you need to apply DevOps principles and CD practices, so that you are aware why you are using the tools. So we are giving an intro why the tools are designed and why it is designed in the way it is now, and then we are jumping on to how to do that. Anything to add, Murugan?
No, I think yeah. The power of Azure DevOps, right? People must be thinking it's a Microsoft tool and then it's only for .NET. No, right? Uh, I want to start with like telling like how this has changed over a period of time, and then how it's gonna work with any other languages: Python, Node.js, Ruby on Rails, Java, you name it, and it supports it. Yeah, that's what we'll be diving into.
Okay, that's cool. I think Lena, you are going to start first. So I'll share your screen to the screen so that you can start. So Lena, your screen is live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've already given an intro of what we are going to talk about. Uh, so I myself, Leena, I'm the CTO of a small product startup called Good Karma. We recently renamed it to Practice Now. We've been iterating on the names. That's a different story. I can talk about that on a different context. I've been working with my friend had co-founded a company called Multunes around 10, 12 years back, which was a software consulting company. I've been doing that we ran that for close to 10 years, and then we jumped onto our own product. So all the things that I'm going to share are mainly the learnings that I have been doing for the last 10, 12, or maybe 15 years of software industry. So I'm more interested in the engineering aspect of the product development. I do write code. It's a small startup that I'm working with, just 2, 3 people. So I'm the one who writes the most of the code. So I break the production, I fix it. So I know the pain of dev and ops. So most of I'm sharing most of my experience in the talk. Now Murugan will give an introduction about himself.
Okay. I work as assistant director at EY, mainly focusing on Azure cloud environments, and then providing DevOps as a service solutions. And I contribute a lot to the community. I really want to thank CodeOps and Hari, taking this meetups and conference to this level. I think they're doing really great job, because I see, I think Rohit is being, I think he must be working like all 24 hours from past 3 days. Really appreciate CodeOps and KonfHub on this. Yeah, so I am actually, I love DevOps, right? So somebody, Manoj was mentioning to me, like, even if I wake you up from the sleep and I can talk about DevOps. So uh, these pictures, I'm very proud to put it, with the godfather of DevOps, Patrick DeBois, and John Wallace is the kind of first American who got into DevOps, and Jez Humble is the father of continuous delivery. And please, you can join the local meetups which we do in the Bangalore. It's just a free of a cost, and we get to learn a lot.
Okay, so so like I mentioned, we can talk about all the tools. All the tools helps you to move faster, but unless you understand why you're using the tool, you will not be able to leverage the power of it. So before we jump on to the demo that Murugan is giving, we're stepping back and thinking, okay, why is it required, and what value we can leverage from the tools that we are providing. So. So the one of the biggest problems in the software industry is the last mile problem. That there is a funny saying that 90% of the time is taken by the 90% of the work, and the last 10% takes the next 90%. And that is true. You can see that happens all the time. When you think, okay, it's just a small change, it takes all the time, and then it doesn't go into production. Okay, and that's a problem that we see everywhere. And just quoting Mary Ann from the book Lean Software Development, which was written maybe a decade ago, even more than that. You can think about how long it takes for you to change one line of code, maybe a color of a button you want to change to something else, and how much time it takes. If you really go into different people and ask this question, you can see that you can hear different timelines people say, like say from say 1 hour to even 1 month. Okay, and I asked this question in a conference, and I was really surprised. Maybe a few months back, I asked this question, and I saw that many people raised their hand for say 6 months and above. That was really just one line of code. We are talking about just one line of code, and that really happens. And why is that, right? The main problem is that change is a constant, right? We always fight with change. We think, okay, this is a final, but the next day we hear that, okay, that has to change. And we really don't cope very well with changes. I think maybe it's a human behavior. We are used to habits. And then when something changes, even a small change, it comes as a bottleneck for us. Okay, and that happens when we develop products also. We think this is a final thing. We know that things will always change, but we have to appreciate change and adapt to it, right? And so rather than going into why is the problem and stuff like that, I think it is better to look at what Jez Humble, Nicole, and Jim Kim has done in the last few years as part of DevOps research and assessment. What they've done is they've taken, I think, 50,000 data points, and then looked at how different teams behave and what does matter, why they have different kinds of results depending upon different kinds of teams. So what they looked at is they looked at mainly two things. One is the throughput, that is how frequently a team deploys, and how how much time does it take for a team from commit to production. The moment you commit the code to production to the code base, I mean to your repository, how much time it takes to move it to production. And the next parameter they looked at is stability. How stable the teams and the environment is. Like, it's not about that things don't go wrong. Things always go wrong. Okay, but how frequently different teams adapt to those failures, right? How much time a team takes to restore a service, and how frequently the failures happen. Okay, and this whole thing they put it as a matrix. Okay, and the lead time, the change failure time, and then availability, and then you can look at it in three aspects. One is the lead time is mostly about development, change failure is about the deployment, and availability is about the operation. Okay, and and they categorize the teams into 4 types of on the based on the performance. They categorize into 4 different types. The top one is the elite, and that is a small fraction of the entire group. And then comes high, medium, and low. Okay, so for me, what was the most interesting fact in this was the change failure rate. If you look at the difference between elite and the medium, is that all these teams, elite, high or medium teams, they have a 0 to 15% of failure rate. So there is no much difference in that. That means, okay, even elite teams make mistakes, but the difference is how frequently, how much time does it take for them to actually restore that the service or fix that problem. Okay, and how frequently they are making changes to production. So they have the same amount of failures, but they make more changes to the production. Okay, or any environment for that matter. And if you look at other factors, the elite and high teams are much more than medium or low. Okay, and but what is the difference? What are the factors for this elite and high teams to behave in this way? Okay, there should be something different in the way they are doing things than compared to others, right? And first and foremost, they always experiment, right? They try to do, rather than making major changes, they try to do small experiments with the customers. So they always first they always work with the customers. They try to understand what they want, and then once they understand what they want, to make sure that their understanding is correct, they try to deploy experiments into the environments, and then really try that with the customers and see how they behave, react to those changes. Okay, so they always experiment. But for a team to experiment, there are a few things that is required. One is that adapting to the lean way of doing things. Always do things in small batches, and also make sure that you have only reduce the number of working progress items, rather than having trying to do too many things at the same time. Focus on few things and do it really well. And then always work with the customers. Try to understand how they what they want, that what their problems are the things that we developing and deploying, is it really solving their problems? Okay, that's all about lean. In the lean philosophy, customers comes first, right? It's you may we may have our own interests or thoughts about how to do things, but if the way that we are suggesting doesn't solve the customer's problem, there is no meaning in that. So keeping apart our interests and our thoughts. Okay, really try to observe customers, talk to them, and find out what they want, and try to do it all the time. Try to improve the product continuously. Okay, that is a lean software philosophy, and a set of practices to support that. And I'm sure almost all of you are familiar with all these terminologies. But when you combine these practices together, and it really works for the philosophy, and that's all about it. For example, if you have a very tightly coupled architecture, which is very rigid, and it is very difficult to make changes. And even if you understand what customers want, you will not be able to deliver in the way that you think it should be, right? So you should have, starting from the architecture itself, how do you manage databases? Those are the databases and architecture are the major pillars of the things, and then that is the one we think is difficult to change. So even there we should have practices which will help you to manage it in a way that even there you can do small increments rather than a big bang change. Okay, so the small batches are the main thing that is a key for this. But what should include in the small batch, after talking with your customers or working very closely with your customers. But so when we talk about all these DevOps, everyone says, okay, it's good, but it doesn't work for us because we are regulated. We are not our product is not simple, our product is different, and we have too much legacy, so on and so forth. So I'm going back to the research, Dora's research again. So in that, before jumping on to this, one of the earlier companies which showed us that you can really do continuous delivery is Amazon. If you, I don't know how many have heard of this, but I think the stats this published in 2011 is that Amazon website uh, go through changes in every 11 seconds. Okay, so in every 11 seconds there is a change in the set, and Amazon is one of the most regulated company. Okay, because it's not a simple website. It's not a it has, they have their financial and everything. It's a lot of regulations they have to go through, and if they can make 11, changes in 11 seconds, why can't a small team, say a team of 10, can make changes at least once in a week or multiple times in a week, right? So it's not actually about the domain you are in. It's more about the way you work, right? Or the way we work, right? We have to change the way we work, and we have to adapt to these changes to make even legacy code base. We can make small changes, and then over time, it will be, you will be able to make faster changes to that. So going back to the Dora result, it talks about it. These are the domains that the industries that they spoke to, or they got the data from, and it includes financial and other industries also. So it's not just about the technology companies. Even others can do it, and it doesn't matter what environment you are in. The number of employees doesn't matter. Okay, it's all about the culture, or the way you adapt to making changes to the software, or the way you approach how to make changes to the software that you are building. Okay, and that's it from me. I think I have given a very high level overview of why DevOps is required, and what changes it can bring into the business. I will hand it over to Murugan now.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Leena. That was a good introduction. Um, okay, so we kind of understood what is DevOps and why and principle and practices, right? I'm going to dive into how Azure DevOps is going to help us here. Let me quickly share my screen. Rohit?
Uh, yes, Murugan, your screen is live.
Okay. Um, so yeah, so DevOps pipeline basically talks about, like, when you have a requirement, right, and how are you actually going to manage that entire life cycle. So with Azure DevOps, right, and the beauty of Azure DevOps is it's just a one tool, and you can actually manage everything there, right? It's not just your tool for your automation, and it actually starts with your Azure board. This is like your Jira board or your Agile Scrum board. And then the development, I mean, Microsoft has a lot of development tools, and VS Code is being highly used, and Visual Studio. And you check in the code and to the Azure Git, Azure repo, and then that triggers the CI pipeline. And CI pipeline does a lot of things, like it takes a source and it installs all the necessary packages, and it builds the project and it runs a unit test. It also does the SonarQube code static analysis, the security test using Veracode or some other tools, and it creates a artifact, right? See, once the artifact is created, our code is ready, then we trigger the CD pipeline, the release pipeline. So in the release pipeline, it actually picks up the artifact, and we talk about infrastructure as code. That means the infrastructure should be provisioned on demand, right? Don't keep your infrastructure running forever. Unnecessarily, you'll be paying more money for that, right? So you have your infrastructure code is ready, and then provision it in the within the pipeline. So once the environment is ready, then deploy your code, then run your functional test, security test, and load test, and so and so. And so and from there you promote it to different environments. I've just in this picture I've just shown only four, but you can deploy it to like thousands of environments. And thanks to Cloudscape, I've used the Cloudscape tool to build this particular image design. Okay, let's get into the demo now. So this was I was referring to Cloudscape. Okay, as a first thing, right? Whenever you get a requirement, um, we need to have them as a backlog. In my past consulting experience, what I've seen really is the fundamentally people do mistake is like they don't refine the user stories, they don't estimate it well. Because of that, they're unable to deliver at the given time, and then once they deliver it, product owner comes back and says, you know what, I don't see what I asked for, or or you might get a lot of bugs. So to start with, uh, this is how Azure DevOps looks like, and you see a lot of tabs here, like the boards, and here you can have your all your work item. This is your Scrum board and your backlog. So backlog as starts from epics, and epics under that you'll have a features and then user stories, and within the user stories you'll have tasks, right? Each task can have a number of hours and then the priority, effort, and things like that. And obviously you'll have your sprint here, and you can use the multiple frameworks here. I'm using Agile Scrum, but otherwise you can use Kanban, you can use a plain simple board, and a lot of the other options. And you have another option called queries. So here you can actually get a custom result. Like I want to know how many items are in progress state, or how many items are there which have been shipped, and which we or how many bugs we got, and all those things we get it here. Moving on, so for example, let's say, right, somebody doesn't have I mean, he would never started with any creating a pipeline, and how can actually they get started? And the beauty with this is, without even scratching your head, you can actually create your pipeline within less than 5 minutes, right? So for that, you will have to log into Azure portal, Microsoft. This is a cloud portal, and search for DevOps Starter. So this is like a starter kit which helps you to build the basic template. Now I've selected this, and this gives in multiple options. So one thing, keep in mind that Azure DevOps is not only for the Microsoft tools. So this works for any language. So you can see here it's .NET, Node.js, PHP, Java, even simple static website, Python, Ruby on Rails, wow, Go, C, and then you bring your own code as well, right? So let me choose a Python here. I want to deploy a Python sample Python application. I'll click on next, and here this gives you template. Okay, which framework are you using? This is nice. So I'm going to select Django. And what kind of application is that? Is it a simple web app, and then or you have containerized it? I'll say simple web app. I just need to give a name. Python. I'll just give a KonfHub. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, go create a project called KonfHub, Python KonfHub in my Azure DevOps organization, right? So Azure DevOps you can create multiple organizations within the Azure DevOps. One is like it's with my name. Otherwise, within your company you can create multiple organizations, or you can have one organization, and within that you can create multiple projects, multiple teams, and things like that, right? And this will take a few minutes to provision. Uh, to save the time, I'm going to go to the one which I already provisioned. So once this is provisioned, you will see something like go to the resources. So once you go to that resource, once you actually click on that, so this particular, the what we did, like we just did like 5 clicks, right? In that 5 click, say Microsoft Azure has done a lot for us. So what it actually did is it took a sample Python code, and it actually uploaded into a Git, which is Azure Git, and it created a pipeline here. You can see here there's a pipeline, a CI pipeline has been, continuous integration pipeline has been created, and it also ran the build pipeline, and we can see that how many ran. And then we also have a release pipeline. So CI is basically work still create your artifact, but CD is where you deploy to your production environment. And not only that, within this time, it also created your one web app, right? Platform as service, and it is deployed that sample code to here. And see the another beauty, right? And monitoring is very important, like Leena mentioned, right? Your feedback is very important, so it creates your monitoring as well. Now if I browse this, and I should be able to see my sample code as being deployed and which is running, and it is like you can consider this as a production application which is running. Oh, success, yeah, this has been running now. Now now I'll show you how we do it. Right now, let me click on this one, go to this sample. So this takes me to my Azure DevOps. Here we just saw board, right? Let me take you through the repos. Here we keep all our code, and this is Git. You could use TFS as well, but Git is like more it's used. In this we can see we have the application, the Python application here. And like I mentioned, the infrastructure as code, right? So if you want to deploy anything to Azure, so use ARM templates. So don't log into portal and create something. So instead, have everything scripted. That's what the script we see. And then another key important thing, like Leena mentioned, like your automated test is very important, very critical. So in this sample, we have written some unit test and then some of the functional tests as well. And Azure DevOps gives you options like where you can actually see who all committed, how many commits happened. Like you can see that there's so many commits happened, and you can also see the branches, who has created the branch and how many branches have been created. So basically, the one principle is you create a short-lived branch. Don't create a branch which is like going to stay for like months together. And tags, sometimes you don't want to create a branch, but you can just create a tags as well. I've not created any. And pull request, this is very important. Don't commit any changes directly to your master. Don't assume that I don't make a mistake, because humans make a mistake. So make sure you create a pull request as somebody sees it and then they approve it, right? And this will show how many pull requests has been created and active, completed, and if somebody says no. Yeah. Okay, now what happened is our code has been uploaded to Git, right? Azure repos Git. Now from there, we want to build a pipeline, right? So as a pipeline, if you come to the pipeline section, you see this pipeline. Under I have this one continuous integration has been created, and you saw that's a green, right? Green tick mark here. That means it's a success. And I did a 4 commits. That's why you see a 4 build here. Now let me go to I'll show you how does the pipeline looks like, right? So pipeline is basically you take any language. So what are the steps you take? You consider it's a manual, right? And you want to deploy your application, and what are the manual steps you do to deploy the same thing? You're going to put it into the automated way. So now to deploy this Python application or to create a artifactory, as a first thing, I need to create a task saying that, okay, which version of Python I want to use. Okay, that task is done. And second one, I say, okay, use install the dependencies. Okay, cool. And then next I have here, run the unit test and publish the unit test results. And I want to archive that artifact, the folder which I'm going to deploy it, and archive the test as well, so that this test can be run as a functional test once after the CD. And we also have a ARM template, like infrastructure as code. I'm copying it to this folder so that I can my release pipeline can pick it up. This is how the CI pipeline looks like. And here, when you have some passwords, so you don't hard code it in any of the task, right? Instead, use a variables section, and then you can actually lock it so that it won't be visible. Now there's a trigger option here. You can say the moment I commit a code, there should be a continuous integration should be run. Okay, immediately the CI should run. So that you can modify here, and you can also filter which branch to run, which not to run. And you can also schedule not only when I committed, even the nightly build as well. You can schedule it. Some of the other options where you can configure your day, your format, and things like that. retention policy, how long you want to retain your your build. And when you come to the history, it's basically, this is good thing is, when somebody makes any change, you can actually come back here and see who made the change and why they made the change. Because one principle is, whenever you make any change, please make sure you put a comment so that people can actually see it, right? So once you pipeline is built, you say, okay, queue this pipeline. Okay, so what it's going to do is, and it's going to start running my pipeline. Now, CI pipeline, if you see here, it is manually run by Murugan. I just clicked it. Otherwise, if I commit it, it'll show automated. And from which branch, and as the build is happening, just now it started, the build is queued. So the who's executing your build, right? So Microsoft has the cloud agents. So that agent will actually will do the job for you, so you don't need to install anything. But if ever you feel like, I want to have my own agent, you can still have your own agent locally. You can create it. Now moving on to this one, on the releases tab, let's say that the CI is done, right? We need to do the release part of it. Now within the release, and here you can say, I'm saying, okay, go pick up that artifact. And here I've told, okay, enable the continuous deployment. The moment the CI is done, immediately you start with CD. But you can actually disable as well. In some cases where you want to have a gates, you want to have any approvals, you can actually do that. So what happens here is, in my release pipeline, I want to deploy to one environment, which is dev, and you can actually clone it, telling that, okay, now deploy this to QA, deploy this to production environment, like that. So you can just copy from one to other. Now here you can have this. I can say, okay, I want to do a manual deployment or release deployment. And like I said, if you want approval from anyone, you can say that, if it wants to move from production to UAT, we need approval from a release manager. You can select their name. And you can also, another beauty is, let's say that once the deployment is done and you want to trigger some Azure functions, or you want to trigger some external API, you can do all that. Or you have some policies, security policies, without that you cannot push your code. You can have the conditions here. In your CD pipeline, so what we do here is number of steps. As a first step, I have a task here which says, okay, go and provision the web app service plan. Then I'm installing the extensions. Then I'm creating the web app. This is a platform as service, and extracting the test. And I'm using the Python version, and I'm running my functional test and then building it, right? So this is how it looks like. Now, if I go back here on my releases, you can actually see this is being success. Now if you click on the release, it'll show you what all steps happened and how did the deployment took place. Now here you can see that, okay, this is succeeded. And if you want to see, you can actually see the full log on on what how that each step is behaved. You can even click on the succeeded button here. Okay, now this is how it looks like. Yeah, so you see this, all the steps succeed. If something fails, it'll show it is failed, and you can click on that and it'll show you result, like why something has failed. It's beautiful, the logging, right? Now I showed about Python, right? And another thing is, everyone loves Kubernetes, right? Everyone loves containers. Now I'll show you another thing, how you can actually build use Azure DevOps for your Kubernetes application, right? So what we have here is, we have one Java application which is containerized. Okay, and I have my CI pipeline. I'm going to show you a CI pipeline. So this looks similar. There's no difference for any language. So in every CI pipeline, what you see is those tasks. Let me show you here, and there's no difference for any language. Now here we can see that this is nice, right? I have a first step here, and then I'm telling, okay, go create the container registry, build the image, push an image, and I'll tell you how you're going to hand it, right? It's very simple. Just you click on button here, and then look for what is this, build Okay, I'll just say, yeah, Docker, search, sorry, just search for Docker. You see this? You get number of tasks here. Okay, build and push the Docker image. You just click here and say, okay, add. And then that particular, the task will be added here. And then from here, you can start entering the details. So build an image, push an image, and install the Helm chart and package the Helm chart and copy the ARM. This is CI. Now, when I come to CD, so it's again same principle. So the artifact gets created, and in the CI, we are not deploying anything here. And when it comes to CD, so we're going to have the similar set of tasks. So one thing what you need to do is Azure DevOps and your cloud, whether it can be Google Cloud or AWS or even Azure, right? You need to establish a connection. So for that, you need to create a service connections, right? In the project settings, you get to do that. And here, when it comes, you can see here, right? Now I have put some Azure CLI tasks, and I'm creating another ARM template to go and create a AKS cluster, and then extract the resources and create your namespace, Kubernetes namespace, and then image, you pull the secrets and then install the Helm and then upgrade the Helm. Boom, it's done, right? Now, if you go to releases, you can actually see that the release has been done and it is successful. So not only this, right? And what I really like about Azure DevOps is even for Ruby on Rails, and I've just planning to, I was just playing with Ruby on Rails, and then this is containerized Ruby on Rails, and then it works amazing even for Ruby on Rails. And I can show that the pipeline looks kind of similar. Okay. Now, another important thing, right? One thing what we also talk about is so these are the like kind of the UI way of doing it, right? But we talk about pipeline as code, right? And if you want to treat everything as pipeline, yes, my Azure DevOps supports that as well. The same visually pipeline what you saw, you'll be writing it as a Azure pipeline YAML. This is same like Jenkins file. So what I'm saying here, I'll have to write the YAML script trigger for any branch. Okay, I want to use this particular Ubuntu agent, and I'm going to reuse this variables. I've created this, and there are a number of steps. Okay, as a first step, this is a .NET application. For .NET, I'm saying, okay, use the .NET version 2, and then run some npm install. Okay, task and display name and input. Similarly, you can add a lot more here. Now, let's say that you find difficult to write here, and what is the beauty here is you click on this particular button here, show assistant. You can actually select this particular thing and just say add. That will add a code for you. Amazing. This is beautiful. Now, one thing is this my Azure DevOps supports for multiple clouds and multiple tools. Integration is amazing, and here you can see that I can actually deploy to AWS, like Amazon ECR, AWS S3. You can see this, and not only that, and you can also deploy as well to GCP, right? Now, how you do that? And within Azure Cloud, we have something called a marketplace where you can actually search for all the plugins, and you can even write your own. Then you get a lot of plugins. For example, you want to integrate your Slack or Teams, uh, any tool. There is n number of plugins are available. You just plug in there. For example, Ansible or Terraform, you name it, you have it here. So all the plugins are there. It's just that you select the plugin and install the plugin to your Azure DevOps organization, and it will be available here. Now, one last thing what I want to show here is, so now we just saw that CI/CD is beautifully running and it is executing. Now, for example, I'll just quickly do one change here. If I go to my, where is this? Okay, if I go to my code, and let's say this in this Python, and I'm just going to make some changes. I'll show you how this entire the CI/CD runs. Um, the moment I make some changes and I say commit, so what happens here is this is fired the you can see here it is committed, and I'll go to my releases pipeline. I should be able to see my CI pipeline triggered immediately. So this will take like few minutes. Like it'll do your CI and CD, and within few minutes the changes will be available in your website, in your production website. It's loading. I'll come back to here. Okay, so once we have everything ready, right, and the key thing is, um, we want to visualize what is happening, right? What I really like about this is a dashboard. I've created this simple dashboard here. We can beautifully visualize. For example, a leadership team or somebody wanted to see how many work items we have, who's working on what, or what is our state. So basically, what they want to know is, are we in a good state to release our your feature? Now you can create a feature, you can create a dashboard here telling, okay, this shows how many tasks are there, how many user stories are there, and there's how many bugs are there, and who's working on what, and what are the state of the bug. And here you can see how many in the continuous integration pipeline, how many have failed and how many passed. And there are some companies, they actually put a big screen and they display this as well. How many commits and the deployment status. Okay, now if you see here, you see a blue tick mark here. That is, we just committed it, right, and it triggered a build now. But this is the past build happened, 100% successful rate on the test as well. And you can see, you can put other links as well, and you can search for your work items, and it will show the iteration, your sprint, and then what is the capacity of the team, and your release pipeline overview, and how many releases we had, and the pull requests, how many created and who need to approve. Obviously velocity is important for a team, and a team size, and you can see a build history. So when you have something like this, you can actually click here and say, okay, settings, and configure it, and you select which, how you want to, what you want to display here, and you can show a lot more. And in this particular tab, you can put your custom content. With this, what I want to end here is, Azure DevOps is a very powerful tool, that gives you flexibility to, and it makes it easy to get started, and it has a lot of marketplace, and you can actually deploy to anything. And then this gives you end-to-end solution for your end-to-end deployment, end-to-end software development. And if somebody really wanted to learn more about Azure DevOps, and I really encourage you guys, take this particular course, AZ 400. This is Azure Developer. I actually recently I got certified, Azure Developer on AZ 400, and this particular learning path is beautiful. It's amazing. I heard from a lot of people that this is beautiful, and this is going to teach you end to end. It's going to take time, but make sure you spend time to learn on this, right? Amazing, cool. Thanks a lot. I think I I overshooted like 4 minutes. Thanks, Rohit.
Thanks a lot, Leena and Murugan. That was really awesome, and there are so many code samples and code demos as well. That is what most of the audience looks for. So thank you to both of you.